My friend here knows about Trazyn the Infinite. I know about
You
Trazyn the
do.
Infinite, but we don't know all that much about him. All I know is he likes to steal stuff. He's my favorite Necron because of what friends have told me about him. So I wanted to learn more.
Understand. He has single-handedly made me interested in the Necrons.
Yeah.
It's probably that we're just boring Egyptian space laser skeletons that also have sun-eating clouds around.
Um, yeah, Gatan and whatnot. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they play Settlers of Catan. Moving on.
well, basically I told him some things about him, but I don't know everything about him. Like I watched little clips from I forget the name of their channel, but they always do like voice shorts. But yeah, I know about some stuff from the book The Divine and the Infinite, but I don't, like I said before, I don't know everything about Trazyn, which is why I want to learn more.
I haven't met a human alive who doesn't like history to some extent.
Yeah,
You might say you know
I
plenty
love
of
history.
examples of people who don't like history, but I guarantee you they've had at some point an interest in a movie or book that was in some way historical.
Yeah,
Maybe someone swears up and down that they
Yeah.
hate history books and documentaries and whatnot, and then they turn around and say their favorite movie is Saving Private Ryan. That
Oh.
seems pretty historical to me. But
Yeah.
then again, I'm biased. I majored in history to teach it, as silly as that is looking back on.
Oh my god. I have something to relate to him. Only I didn't major in history to teach it. I wanted to work at a museum. Unfortunately, this was during the pandemic, so, it didn't really work out. Unfortunately. The pen. I didn't want to be a school teacher because, one, I didn't think I was that good with kids. Two, I don't think I would be that good with teenage kids at all. Three, I just loved history because I loved history. It was very fun to learn about. I learned about all of American history. I learned some North African history. Learned a lot of European history. Didn't really dabble in Asian history, though.
There's so much interesting history, and the schools only ever teach us the boring parts. You actually gotta delve for the interesting parts, where at that point, all you've heard about is the fucking wars America won.
Yeah, but almost. Oh, we got another subscriber over there. I can't see the name over there,
Nice.
but hey, thank you, person.
Got
You're
it.
the real
Of
one.
course I'm
Aw.
going to say people like history. But I know
Yeah.
someone who agrees with me. Trazyn the Infinite.
Oh, here we go.
Necron nobility, genius, and all-around cool dude, both by the standards of Warhammer 40k and in general, believe it or not. You probably all know the basics of him, I'm sure. That is to say, you all probably know what he's famous for.
Yeah.
Stealing everyone's stuff like his life depended
Yeah.
on it.
Hi, Garrett.
Believe it or not, there's more to a character than the most noteworthy and fan-recognized trait. As it turns
Yeah,
out,
he
Sure,
Trazyn
there is.
steals
has a
of
lot
things
going
and
on
stuff.
for him underneath the hood. He's clever, as all thieves should be, has quite the sense of humor, and even has something that begins to approach kindness and empathy in his own messed up way. And since
My
yours
understanding
truly
is,
has
yeah,
finally done the
if you just want
unthinkable
to
and read another
observe his collection,
Yeah,
he's willing to fucking let you.
yeah, just don't screw with him. That's his whole thing. Don't so screw with his old collection and
Like,
don't.
if you're polite enough, and just ask to borrow something,
Maybe.
he might say yes.
He basic. I can understand them not trusting him because he's a Necron and, those are scary, but he's probably the nicest Necron around. He's also the goofiest one, but that's not exactly like. He's the only goofy one, let's be honest. He's
Yeah, the
fun.
rest are
Maybe,
magic space dominators.
maybe Orkhan is a bit better, but I don't remember much about Orkhan, the Divine.
40k book, that
His
of course
rival.
being the Infinite and the Divine,
There we go.
I'd quite like to make a video about the fella. Let's see what he's all about, from his many archaeological treasures to the things about him that don't involve blatant thievery.
I welcome all to a place in my carefully curated collection.
But since I'm talking about a Necron character, I think it's fitting I talk about the sponsor of today's video, Mantis Sleep. They've slept for 65
Mantis
million
Sleep.
years. They know
Ah.
bed rest is important.
I
Mantis
need a
Sleep's
good
job is
mantis.
a very
I need-
simple, very
I
important.
need a good mantis. I need a
You
good
have a good
mattress.
Making sleep better.
I said
because if
mantis,
you sleep
but
well, your life is going to be
mattress.
better. You'll be healthier, happier, and all sorts of other positive adjectives. To help with
Okay.
this, they make sleep masks and sleep aids. And as someone whose
nice.
sleeping habits range from college student on finals week to eldritch gods slumbering for thousands of years straight, I will tell you straight up that I greatly appreciate their sleep masks. And these masks aren't made
That's
on the
good.
cheap. There's some quality stuff. You ever hear of a little something called silk? One of the softest, most luxurious feeling things on the planet?
Made from
Yeah, they got a
worms.
mask made out of it. You can even get it in
Oh,
purple,
nice.
so you get to feel like royalty and wear the color of royalty. Sleep like the Roman Emperor you are. You deserve it. But that's hardly the only thing you can get from Manta Sleep. Want a weighted mask? Boom, there it is. That's the one I use, and it is a very nice thing to have. Or maybe you want to listen to something while you fall asleep, be it an audiobook, some music, YouTube videos. Well, Manta's once again got you covered because they've got a sleeping mask with a built-in Bluetooth system. I enjoy listening to stuff like that while I'm falling asleep, but headphones can be uncomfortable. Well, with Manta, you can fix both of those problems at the same time. All of them are freely adjustable too, so there's no need to lose sleep worrying about it not fitting. And even if sleeping masks aren't your style, Manta Sleep still got some goodies for you. They've got earplugs, they've got a travel pillow, they've a nap arc for when your manager isn't paying attention to you at work. Everything you could possibly need to improve your sleeping experience, Manta has just for you.
I do always have
And you know what
trouble
else
sleeping
Manta Sleep
sometimes.
has for you? Deals. Using the link in the description and my code, which is helpfully also on screen right now, you can get 10% off your order. That's https://bit.ly/45vy9wl using code
And yes, I do let
Pancreas for
them play their
10% off
sponsors
your
because it
order.
only feels
Make sure
right.
you're resting your best with Manta
Yeah.
Sleep.
No, I'm aware
Now,
of that.
let's talk about the funny stealing robot. Spoilers for the Infinite and the Divine going forward. I'm not going to spoil every single plot point of the book, but I'm going to be mentioning it somewhat frequently as a point of reference, so don't jump up my ass because I spoiled the book for you. It's
Alright.
been out for years by this point. Go read the damn thing.
I
It's
honestly
good,
should.
I promise.
No.
I know it's scary for some of you reading Warhammer
I don't
books that
read
don't have a
anymore.
Primarch on the cover
I
of
just
them,
watch.
but trust me, it's worth the read. Trazyn the
Oh,
Infinite's
please, that's a
backstory is
lie.
that of literally every other Necron character
That
to
said, a good
exist.
friend
He
has
used to be a
told me
Necron.
it's like his third favorite book of all time.
The only thing I've heard of was from my friend telling me there's at one point there's this cool battle between the two, and the way he describes it at the end is if these were two human men, it would be two old men slapping each other.
Yeah, I know. Like that's what I've heard too, and it's great.
Yeah, that is a wonderful line.
Tier, the Catan decided the entire species needed to lose the tier part of Necron tier, and
Yeah.
then became a mummy terminator. In his case, there's some evidence
Pretty
that
much.
Trazyn dragged Orican to the Diviner into Biotransference himself, which
Oh.
would hint that Trazyn was either a fanatical devotee of the Catan or just a massive douchebag. Of course, Orican's memories were probably messed with by the Deceiver, so it's also equally likely that Trazyn had nothing to do with it. During his time as a
It is
Necron
possible.
tier, he was the chief archivist of the Necron tier, whose job was to
Oh.
oversee the mummification of Necron nobility.
That makes
Rather
sense why he's
high-status
into
job,
history.
if I say so myself. He was also already the historian we know him as today, although with not quite as
Wonderful.
large a gallery as he would come to have. Since Necron
That's
lore goes in the
understandable.
direction it does, it's safe to assume that he fought in the war in heaven against the Old Ones, Eldar, Krork, and all those colorful background lore blurs that GW will never flesh out. Then he goes to take a nap and is set to wake up 65 million years in the future. Although for Trazyn, his sleep wasn't to last quite as long as that. He only slept for 64,990,000 years, waking
Huh.
up 10,000 years before most of the other Necrons.
Cool.
And since even after all this time he was still the archivist, he set about doing what he does best,
Oh.
which is to say robbing all sorts of peoples of their belongings. Minor Xeno species we don't know anything about, humans, other Necrons, anything you can
Yeah.
think of, Trazyn probably has something from its civilization in his planet-sized Museum of Solemnness. To his credit, not all of these are from civilizations that
Does
are
he
still
have a
around.
Skaven?
I don't know. I'm not sure if they still exist in 40k.
Station in his
I think he'd
planet-sized
have one if they ever existed.
Well, here's the thing. Whether these are dying, he gets these from all different civilizations where they are died out, whatnot. He basically tries to keep them all safe so that he can learn. You know?
You just cut out on my end.
Oh my god. He tries to keep these things to keep them safe. You
He's
know,
Brainiac.
but he doesn't destroy it, is the thing. He just takes from it and then leaves. Usually. He doesn't destroy anything he comes by. He just takes and then goes. They call him a grave robber for a reason, after all. And while he is
Trazyn is stealing your shoes. What's off?
probably, I honestly believe he would probably do that. Trazyn the Infinite has come to take your shit. So here.
I have come for your internet browser history. No, but I had NordVPN. Fool! It is a scam!
That would actually be a good anti-sponsor. That's silly, but yeah. He just
It
loves...
is a scam, though.
That I did not know. That was...
Most of the YouTube sponsors are.
We'll we'll see about that at some point. But anyway, this is still. He has a lot of stuff, as you can clearly see. I know who that is.
Yep.
That's the leader of the Cadian Guard, the general, that he just has in his museum in stasis.
Museum of Solemnness. To his credit, not all of these are from civilizations that are still around. There's plenty of planets from still existing empires such as the Imperium that are long gone from memory and always except for as an exhibit from Trazyn's archives.
Which I kind of like.
Grave robbing if you really want to, but I'm willing to give Trazyn the benefit of the doubt. These civilizations would have come and gone to the ignorance of everyone around them for all time had he not taken something from them.
Yeah,
for a good amount
which
of
I
his
like him actually
acquisitions, I'm
recording
willing to say
history.
he's doing proper archaeology, not just grave robbing. That being said, a good amount of the time he is just grave robbing. Or stealing and kidnapping, because when you want to get the most accurate depiction of a time period, you have to do some dirty...
Robert Creed doesn't... Oh yeah, that's General Creed. He does not want to be here. He is part of the Cadians. They would really love to have him back. Like, more than anything, honestly.
Yep.
And thus, we get to what he was doing when he woke up during the Horus Heresy and the immediate
during the
aftermath
Horus
of it,
Heresy?
stealing Imperials. He has
Horus
replicas of
Heresy.
several of the major battles of the Horus Heresy. Having woken up before just about every other major Necron,
He's arranging
he had the
his
chance to witness
miniatures,
it go
but with
off in a
people.
way no one else quite did.
Pretty
An outside
much.
observer to mankind collectively shitting itself thanks to Horus's little temper tantrum, he knew a chance to get some good historical dioramas when he saw it. So
Yeah.
he started collecting Space Marines.
Of course
A
he
lot
did.
of Space Marines. Enough that they'll become relevant later on. He collected more than just that, of course, like Custodians and Thunder Warriors. Also, something I find absolutely amazing is that Trazyn said he found the Imperium to be rather boring. It was all Emperor this, Emperor that. Great scene. Maybe this isn't the best way to word it, but it felt like someone at GW actually understood that perhaps the Imperium isn't the only thing about the setting worth giving a damn about. Of course, immediately after this, Trazyn thinks to himself about how the Horus Heresy was just amazing and full of drama and the coolest thing ever, so it wasn't the perfect scene, but at least GW managed to hold themselves back from stroking themselves off to completion.
Dear God, did he have to say it like that? But yeah, I can understand why he considers some of it boring, but when the Horus Heresy... That's the interesting things. People consider wars in history to get exciting. They're not as exciting when they're happening, though, but to him, since he's an actual historian who doesn't have to worry about any of the aftermath, I can see it not... I can see it being exciting to him. Or worry about getting shot or whatever. He doesn't
Or it
have
was
to
just
worry
too
about
late
that.
to remove the line and they shot the guy who called the Imperium boring in an official 40k book. Could be either, really. Oh, and he also claims that he knew Gilliman and was friends with him. He told Cato Sicarius this to his face. Now, this is Trazyn. He could be lying, or he could be stretching the truth. Or he could be telling the complete truth to a space marine who would naturally assume he's full of it. Until him and G-Man interact in modern 40k, we probably won't
never know.
Probably after
really.
Trazyn realizes an awake demigod is a lot more interesting an exhibit than a sleeping one, and goes to acquire more museum pieces, as it were.
Probably.
One of the most interesting things he tried to find was this artifact called the Astrarium Mysterios. What exactly it is, I won't say, so you can find it out in the Infinite and the Divine for yourself. But he raids an Eldar Maiden world to get at it. The Exodites naturally do not approve of this, but the Exodites exist to lose so other factions can do cool stuff, and that's pretty much what happens.
The Exodites are basically like nature. They're basically Wood Elves in 40k is the best way I describe them. They're weird because they use mostly warp magic and whatnot to move from place to place and have maiden worlds where they only allow Eldar to live on. I can't fully talk about them because I don't really understand them fully and know all their lore, but yeah.
They at least managed to take out a decent portion of the force he brought with him, so they didn't just get wiped en masse like with Eldritch Omens. Or maybe I'm just not as bitter this time because it was another Xeno faction wiping the Exodites out rather than Chaos or the Imperium.
He loves elves,
this
by the way.
plays into the long-standing feud he has with Orican, who also very much wanted the Astrarium. This wasn't the cause of it, though. They've been arguing since before they were metal men, and now that they are, all it means is that when they get angry, they can dent the floorboards around them by accident when they go at it.
I kind of
Trazyn
love
didn't
that.
quite
They've
grasp
been
the full
arguing
extent
even
of what the
before they were
Astrarium
immortal.
was after Orican stole it, at least not initially. Even throughout the first few chapters of The Infinite and the Divine, as he learns more about it, he assumed he was dealing with a replica of the real thing, though given how rabidly Orican pursued it, he caught on pretty quickly it was the real deal. What follows is essentially an entire book about an old married couple bickering back and forth amongst each other. Only the married couple is a pair of Necron lords who could each level a star system in their own unique ways.
I do love
Without
that.
too much spoiling, this book shows just how damn clever Trazyn is. Orican, for those who don't know, is a master time traveler, and this is relevant for two examples of Trazyn's brilliance. For one, upon learning that Orican was time-traveling, he immediately took steps to counteract the problem. He
Nice.
listened to one of his underlings' advice on how to counteract the issue, and proceeded to take care of things in a way that was most fitting for Trazyn.
That makes sense.
Which is to say, he stole
Yep.
from the horde of another dynasty whose members were still entirely asleep. Hey, I said sometimes he's
Wow.
not just robbing people. Memes
God
are born for a
damn it.
reason, and in
I
Trazyn's
just love that he even steals from other Necrons sometimes.
Dick.
He does. He steals from everyone, let's be honest. Either to put museum or to help him with some kind of strange way. Like dealing with Orcan. It's still wonderful. He's so goofy, and I love him for that.
Yeah.
case, the meme about him being a dirty thief is a lot more representative of himself as a character than the Krieg shovel meme. But the other way that Trazyn shows his brilliance is that even before he was able to counteract Orican directly, he kept outwitting him even as he traveled back in time.
Wow.
The incident where all this happens was when Trazyn and Orican were put on trial by a Necron council. They were a sort of interim government that existed before the Necrons would fully awake 10,000 years from then, designed to keep the peace between those who had awoken early for one reason or another, and generally make sure the Necrons weren't all killing each other for stupid blood feud reasons. Necrons being perhaps the most infighting-prone faction in 40k short of the Orcs and Chaos, this council is not without merit. Orican was trying to frame Trazyn as being the one completely at fault, and despite being able to not only completely redo the conversation, but also go back far enough to have a different Necron noble oversee proceedings each time, he couldn't get Trazyn to take the blame. In case the meaning of that went over your head, let me rephrase it just a bit. Despite having the power of infinite do-overs and the ability to basically pick whoever he wanted to be his judge, Orican could not outwit Trazyn here.
That's
He's
amazing.
a smart guy, both in his ability to admit when he isn't up to snuff yet, and in just general cleverness.
That says something about Trazyn that I can't even fully comprehend. No matter how many times Orican redid it, he could never win against Trazyn.
You see, every redo you got, I got $1. What does that mean? It means I understand. Well, I predicted what plan you were doing based on how many dollars I had. What?
I feel like he would just say that to screw with him, not to have any
Okay,
actual
the truth,
meaning.
the truth. I didn't get $1. You're just a basic bitch.
Yeah, that sounds like a possible thing. Honestly.
After that, the book follows Trazyn and Orican as they attempt to outwit each other and claim the Astrarium and the secrets it leads to which I will spoil little of. We do get to see Trazyn frequently pull off the slyest trick of his sleeve, however, which is his body-hopping ability. Trazyn can very conveniently decide that a given Necron is actually himself, taking over them and turning them into a new body for himself. He can do it to all sorts of different Necron types as well.
Wow.
Off the top of my head, I don't believe he ever did it to a basic Necron warrior, but that could very well just be because he didn't want to stoop that low. He's still a Necron lord after all, the pinnacle of arrogance in this setting short of Prince Uriel. His mastery of the living metal that makes Necrons up also lets him smile and wink, funnily enough. Not really important, just a cool character trait he has. Undoubtedly lets him be the perfect little goblin whenever he wants to be one. For all the interesting stuff about the guy, though, he isn't exactly the most plot-relevant character for a large portion of 40k history. He wasn't intervening in the War of the Beast like with Eldrad, for instance. He did fuck around with Cato Sicarius a bit, and he did threaten Orican with the Catan Shard, which understandably scared the hell out of him. But he wasn't a driving force or a major player in any narrative events for about 10,000 years.
Well, if you suddenly bring out a Shard of a God, I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna start freaking out. Because that's what a Catan Shard is. It's a shard of a god that they can control.
Sheen, this is the 7th time in a week. Well, you've shown on your shard of a god.
Not far off what he'd probably do, honestly.
He was still busy, of course. His galleries only ever grew throughout all this time. He just wasn't making a point of involving himself in the biggest of battles for the fate of the universe and whatnot.
Yeah, he's probably just taking
Galaxy's a dangerous place, after all, and if he dies, he's dead, being a Necron. No soul to resurrect or possibly achieve.
Yeah, so he has to be a bit
That's why when he does go out, he's such a big fan of the body takeover trick of his. Even if you managed to kill him, you really didn't. There's also just plain and simple no way to corner down the real Trazyn, as it were, because he's got such mastery over living metal that he warps the Necron Necron body he inhabits to become like his. He still looks like Trazyn no matter what body he takes over, as long as he has a couple of minutes to reforge it to his liking. He also
Makes
did
sense.
try and take the Spear of Vulcan from the Salamanders once, but it failed when he was given its spearhead first. It didn't kill him, of course, but he decided it wasn't worth pissing off the Salamanders anytime soon.
That makes
Wait a
sense.
couple of thousand years for them to all die out first, maybe. He's got the time to spare. He
He
did
really
make friends
does.
with one Inquisitor Valeria, however, becoming pen pals with her. Isn't that nice? It started when she briefly had to stay in his galleries, not as an exhibit, but as a visitor.
Oh.
He sent an invading army of a bunch of Catacan units, and he responded by sending her a letter thanking her for sending so many of them that he not only had enough to fill up an exhibit about a war they once took part in, but replaced some of the lesser specimens with the troops she sent. He thanked her
Wow.
for such generosity as to send so many regiments worth of museum display, and even gave her a gift alongside the letter, a Tesseract labyrinth. She was trapped inside, but he
Of
assured her
course.
it was a novelty to people like him and herself, assuming she was smart enough to get out. She was, and they had about the closest thing an Inquisitor can get to having a friendship with a foul Xeno. She's later
Makes
executed
sense.
for the crime of consorting
Oh,
with foul Xenos,
wonderful.
unless I'm misremembering what I read, but hey, it was probably cool while it lasted. You can't really blame Trazyn for that one either, that's just the Imperium being the Imperium. But
Yeah,
come the
can't really
41st
blame him for
millennium's
that.
end, or the beginning of the 42nd, because the actual proper date in 40k doesn't mean anything,
It
Trazyn
really
decided
doesn't.
he was going to get involved. No longer on
Oh.
the sidelines, this man. He was instead going to mostly still remain on the sidelines, but this time start
He was
throwing things
doing
from his
things.
collection at the things that were bothering him.
Well,
Abaddon's
Doing
13th
things.
Black Crusade was getting revved up to go, and believe it or not, Trazyn was one of the first people to realize something big was about to happen. Not because of a spy network of connections to important people in the Imperium or anything like that, but because he stole a sacred bell belonging to an Imperial saint and it started ringing out
Oh.
in stasis. 13 times to be precise, and Trazyn figured that with the Holy Bell breaking the rules of stasis, it was either a case of chaos about to
Oh.
do something big, or the 40k galaxy was about to have one hell of a rat problem.
Yeah,
So he
sounds
set
like
off
it.
to the Celestial Orrery, that thing that can destroy stars with a click of a button. It can also help see the future to some extent, so after a quick chat with the Necrons there, who weren't terribly happy to see him on account of him having stolen their ship before, he's
Oh
off
my
to Cadia.
God.
But wait, I skipped something. He also tossed the Sacred Bell into the webway. Did he do this as part one of some grand scheme to battle chaos, or even alert the Imperium to what was coming? No. He just hoped it would be as annoying for the Eldar as it was for him. In any other scenario, I'd complain the GW was once again screwing the Eldar over for no reason, but
But
it's
this
just,
is just-
funny.
yeah,
Reminds
it's
me
just
of Left 4
funny.
Dead when you see a card that says "Do not shoot this."
just
it'll
threw a
alert the
giant
board,
bell in
and then
there
I
to annoy
immediately
the
shot it.
Eldar.
Yeah, I was that asshole.
Yeah.
Anyways, Cadia.
And in
He
fairness,
goes there,
I
and
would too.
Belisarius
Fuck you.
Call is
Hold on.
busy trying to
Yeah.
figure out the Necron pylon system that's located on the planet. Call is
Oh.
racist, then Trazyn gives him some tips, and then he just starts letting loose with random shit in his collection. If you think that
Oh.
feels oddly generous in action for a chronic hoarder, consider that Trazyn both perhaps wanted to play the hero for once, and the fall of Cadia was a great chance to collect all sorts of different pieces through.
I do remember.
Oh, you know, if he wins, that random shit from his collection, he can just bottle it back up, right?
Probably, yeah. Also,
Like, yeah, no, some Horus Heresy mid-condition Space Marines. Yeah, their bolters are going to be down a few shots, but
you make him sound like he's a model collector, actually.
he is.
It's all for
He's
historical.
making dioramas. He's the only thing he's not doing is painting them.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Also, there was one line I remember from that short that I saw where basically he was insulting the other Necrons. He says, "For once, humanity needs a savior. Until their god emperor steps up from his throne, I will have to do." Which I thought was,
Meanwhile, God Emperor of Man could not be reached for comment as he was busy being a wall decoration.
I was going to say, I just thought that was a badass line from him.
It is an amazing line. Yes, I love it.
Replace him. One of those things he released was a company of Horus Heresy era Ultramarines.
Oh.
Remember I said he collected enough of them
You're
to
right.
become relevant? Well, here's the relevancy. Give some credence to Trazyn actually knowing Guilliman. Granted, I doubt they're really the best of friends if Trazyn stole some of his kids, but if nothing
Yeah.
else, there's actual solid evidence he's at least aware of Trazyn. Of course, we know how Cadia goes. Necron
Yeah.
pylons are activated, thank you Trazyn. The day is almost won and the Eye of Terror shut, and then Abaddon throws a hissy fit followed by more literally
Yeah.
throwing a Blackstone fortress into the planet. Rip. Trazyn promptly leaves after Cadia is freed for his gallery, and then starts
Yeah.
probing his pet Catan shard for questions. Questions about how to safely enter the Eye of Terror and Great Rift.
Oh.
One gets the feeling he's attempting to steal the mother of all museum exhibits for
Or he's
himself.
trying to screw
Although
with
for all I
Chaos
know, he
Gods.
could just be planning to raid Crone Worlds for soul stones like the Eldar do,
So,
so we can barter with them for more
this
stuff.
is card.
Never really know with
Oh.
Trazyn.
I
His
have him in a
overarching goal
bottle.
to find more historical artifacts.
Every now and
maybe.
then I shake it up a bit just to piss him off.
That would be funny. You could probably do that with Scarbrand, which is his #1 demon.
Yeah.
Clear, but
Trazyn would.
Yeah.
Because like, it doesn't matter the
Steal the
amount of heat
mother
he's
of-
about to bring down himself. The point is, he'd have Scarbrand in a bottle.
Yeah.
all museum exhibits for himself. Although for all I know, he could just be planning to raid Crone Worlds for soul stones like the Eldar do, so we can barter with them for more stuff. Never really know with Trazyn. His overarching goal of find more historical artifacts may be clear, but the devil's in the details, you know? Now with the
True.
basics of his lore largely out of the way, I want to talk about what he's like. Obviously, he's a bit of a kleptomaniac, but in many ways, he's actually quite the kind and introspective fellow. This, of course, comes with the qualifier that he's an asshole and has done pretty horrid stuff, but this is 40k. That's
Yeah.
everyone. So,
Yeah.
putting that aside, let's
If
talk
you
about how
have
he's
it, you're-
not too bad.
This isn't
For
40k,
one,
you're a
his
fan
interactions
fiction.
with Inquisitor Valeria. Trapping someone in a prison cube may not sound like the kindest thing, but keep in mind that she started it first by having an army invade his house.
True.
And if there's anyone who'd be able to reliably escape something like that in the Imperium, it'd be a member of the Ordo Xenos. Aside from that, him bothering to show up at Cadia at all shows he's willing to make nice with others. He worked with Call and released who knows how much of his collection onto the battlefield to try and make sure the Imperium won
That
the
just
day.
looks funny
Even
to
taking
me.
Creed wasn't that bad, all things considered. Yeah, it's a bit fucked up, but Creed's other option was to die on Cadia and have his soul torn apart by demons. Compared to that, Trazyn's museum is a kindness.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's some evidence
It's
that the
not
people
wrong.
in Trazyn's museum aren't aware of time passing, so it's not like they're just being tortured for all eternity.
That's
the Hammer
good.
and Bolter short about him in Solemnness shows that the Dark Eldar and Chaos Marines inside the little dimensional pocket he trapped them in aren't aware of loops. With that in mind, I don't think it's a stretch to say other people
did
in his
watch this
exhibits
one,
are
by the
aware
way.
they're even frozen in time. That's not to say he's never done something like that. He has a Deathwatch team and a band of orcs positioned right across from each other that are fully aware of the other's presence.
Oh.
If he wants to, he can make sure you're fully aware of the passage of time. Fall on I have no mouth and I must scream style.
That is
Yeah.
I think
horrifying.
there's reason to believe that's the case with everyone in his museum. He's also a genuine historian. He doesn't just collect stuff
Yeah.
to have it. He is
I
serious
love
about
that part
preserving
about
and
him.
cataloging galactic history. He gets angry when his displays are ruined, not just because it's his stuff being destroyed, but because history itself is being erased. That's why when Orican steals the Astrarium for him, he was enraged. Orican destroyed multiple exhibits of his in an effort to throw Trazyn off during their fight, some of which were Necron-tier artifacts. He was generally distraught
would
over
be
them
angry
being
too.
destroyed, and it extends beyond being angry when his stuff is smashed. A passage in The Infinite and the Divine is Trazyn trying to give a tour to some humans on Solemnness. Now, given that he also told them to stop screaming so he could continue, they probably weren't there willingly, but he at least wants to teach people
I
some
do
stuff.
love
Very
that.
relatable
Yeah.
to me, even though I didn't stick with teaching as a profession. He
Stop
also doesn't like
fucking
needless
screaming.
violence.
Do you want to see the Ultramarines or not?
I do love that he had the. Honestly, though, if a Necron kidnapped you, I would be screaming. Be completely honest here.
Infinite
Yeah,
and the
but
Divine
Trazyn's-
largely revolves
it
around
is
the planet
probably
of Serenade.
50-50
where
odds on
Necron
what beating
lies with all
exhibit.
sorts of secret knowledge inside. When Orican showed up with Necron destroyers, Trazyn was upset at the damage it was doing to the planet's ecosystem and the people on it. It goes from Eldar, Maiden World to Imperial Colony throughout the course of the book, and Trazyn never once wanted to destroy anything on it to get what he wanted. Well, except
That's
for
very nice.
Orican, he wanted to destroy Orican, but nothing native to the planet is what I meant.
That
Even if
makes
you view
sense,
it as
though.
cynically as possible and view his wanting to limit collateral damage as him just wanting to preserve history so he can steal it later, that's still far more than most characters in this setting would do.
Yeah.
He's also introspective in a
Very
very
lot of
depressing
characters.
way. He's fully aware that when the Necron-tier became Necrons, they lost something, the soul. And he
Their
laments
very
that no
soul.
longer can the Necrons do things like truly appreciate music or create new art. That's part of
That
why
is
he's so
incredibly
dedicated
sad.
to preserving history. It's both out of a genuine desire to preserve what's come and gone, as well as his way of coping with what's been lost. Speaking of his history museum, I was originally going to cap the video off with a list of stuff Trazyn stole for his exhibits, but to be honest, I think that'd just be a waste of time. If you really want to know, it's not hard to look it up. Just
Yeah.
use the Warhammer Wiki or 1d4chan for the highlights.
Probably
I'll tell
can.
you my personal favorite thing in there, though. A tiered swarm of quite humorous extent. You want to know what he did
Oh.
with it? Unleashed on the Phalanx to disable it. Sure, this is non-canon and only happens in Battlefleet Gothic's 2 Necron campaign, but I just love the mental imagery of that. What the hell constitutes a tiered swarm of quite humorous extent? That's an exact
Yeah.
quote, by the way. Is it an entire hive fleet? Because
Yeah.
he captured one of those once, it's not out of the question.
Dear God,
Alternatively,
Trazyn.
is it just like 5 of them and he was forcing the phalanx to play Alien Isolation in real life?
Seems
Whatever
like
the
it.
case, it worked and it was funny. Let's see if he's any good on Tabletop.
It was.
For lore positives, Trazyn gives you the chance to fight for something a bit different by 40k standards.
Yeah.
Usually it's for the glory of the Emperor / the Dark Gods, or for survival, or for any
Oh,
number
I
of
play a
grand
Trazyn.
reasons. Trazyn, meanwhile, just wants to burglarize your house. Perhaps not the grandest motivation by comparison,
It's better
but
than a
history
lot.
is important, and it's a breath of fresh air as far
It
as
is
I'm
important.
concerned. He's also one of the more morally good Necron characters, so if that means anything to you, then he's a good choice to field as well. He's also just a silly little guy,
Does
so if you want
actually.
to imagine your
Yeah.
army laughing at the enemies all day long, make sure to grab him. Sure, the average
Okay, but,
warrior
like,
won't be laughing, but the leadership
how is
will
this
be.
good on
For
Tabletop? What is his
positives,
stat?
he's
He's about to start talking about that. But yeah, this is the stuff on
actually
Tabletop.
surprisingly solid in melee for a historian. His empathic obliterator deals D3 wounds, and with a 2+ to hit and AP -1, he's at the very least going to be causing some damage. But if you kill a character with it, all enemy units within 6 inches of him take D3 mortal wounds.
Oh.
If you're fighting against a horde army and the enemy messes up their positioning, Trazyn's going to make him regret it. He's also pretty tanky, with a 3-up save, 4-up invulnerable save, and 6 wounds. Not
Cool.
the tankiest in the game by any means, but it'll at least ensure that it'll take some concentrated firepower to bring him down.
Makes
Of course,
sense.
as you might have guessed from his lore, he can also take over bodies. When he's
Ooh.
killed, you roll a dice. On a 2 or higher, you replace an existing character with Trazyn, who comes back with 3 wounds remaining. No rules that happen when a model is destroyed are triggered either. This is not only funny, but can ensure you get a bit more use out of another character who's also on death's door, since Trazyn always comes back with 3 wounds.
Oh, that is.
He also
that
reduces
is good.
damage by 1 if he's your warlord. Not amazing, but helpful. Aside from that, he makes it a little bit cheaper to use the dynastic heirloom stratagem, and buffs the movement of nearby Necron core units by a little bit. For lore downsides of fielding Trazyn, in some ways his differing attitude from 40k characters can be a bit disappointing. For instance, most every Space Marine is going to go down fighting, whereas
Yeah.
Trazyn is going to leg it if things aren't looking too hot.
I know, but
think it's
that's-
a positive, but if you want the classic 40k go down fighting attitude, you won't get
Eh,
it with him.
for some people
really,
it's
if you
either
don't
way.
like clever characters, you won't like Trazyn. Maybe clever isn't the best word for it. Devious? Goofy? Tricksters. I think
he's all
that's a
those
good
things.
word. Trazyn's
He's
a
all those
trickster.
things.
He releases Tyranid swarms on people as a prank, would happily bombard you from orbit rather than face you in proper 1v1 combat if he has no reason
just like
to,
screwing
and
with
generally
people.
isn't going to play fair if he can help it. If you want that kind of character, the Necrons do have others that fit that mold, but Trazyn certainly doesn't. Not much else to say for lore downsides. It's the history bias, what can I say? I'm not going to
Yeah.
look down on a fellow connoisseur of the historical arts. Wow,
Oh.
that made me sound like a pretentious fuckwad. Anyway, time for rules downsides. First off,
Just a
Trazyn
little.
has no ranged weapon, so he's got to get up to the
Oh,
enemy
that's
line to really
bad.
do anything.
Yeah.
He's survivable enough to probably make it past the first round of combat, but since he's a Necron, he's therefore slow, meaning he isn't going to be reaching melee terribly quickly.
They're slow
He
Terminators.
also
after
definitely
all.
shouldn't be fighting stronger characters. Throw him against the standard Commissar, and the guardsmen around him are going to be taking some auto wounds. Throw him
Okay.
against Gilliman, and you're going to watch the 90 points you spent on Trazyn evaporate in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Just be
Yeah.
careful with him, otherwise who's going to collect all those museum pieces? He also doesn't do all that much for the army he's in, unfortunately, and really that's all I've got to say on
Aw.
his rules. It's a shame a character as fun as Trazyn is so simple on the tabletop.
Yeah,
Throw
no,
him
it's
lesser
strong, but it
characters so
doesn't
he
seem
can
like
get some free
he's
wounds
really
on
a
whatever
field
unit you're
commander of
attached
any
to, and aside from that,
Well, he's not really a frontline fighter. As he said before, he'll throw out.
Yeah. But like, you think you'd have someone for like just fucking removing units from the field as they are now part of his collection.
That would actually be a good idea for
that'd
something
keep him
for him.
away from the enemy's big
But
guns.
that would
and
piss
it'll
off the
probably make
opponent
his
so
points
much.
back. For one final
It
non-rules related
would,
downside.
but it would make up for the fact that he doesn't seem to have any real synergy with other units.
His
True.
model is in resin. GW resin, which means it
Oh.
probably sucks, and you'll accidentally clip half the model off trying to remove it from the sprue. And there's
Damn.
Trazyn the Infinite. I really like the guy. He's got some deep introspective
He's my
moments
favorite
and
Necron.
motivations, as well as the surface
Like
level fun
I'd
he
keep
used
a
to
model
make
of
the
him if I
perfect kind of
didn't
character,
know for a
in my
fact
opinion.
he's going to cost
When a
$20.
character has all deep, tragic thought about the setting and
You can
just
probably
general
get a
grimdark
model of
angst,
him,
they're boring.
you know,
When they're just
some
surface
sort of
level
3D
meme
website.
fodder, they're annoying. Trazyn has
checking.
both, and as a consequence is one of the most well-known characters in the setting.
Warhammer.com, ENUS, Trazyn the Infinite. I'm wrong, he's not $20. He's $32.
Oh. Goddamn.
certainly more interesting than a good chunk of the Primarchs. Thank you, as always, to my
That's
wonderful
his
channel
Eldar
members.
bias coming
You are the
out.
unguarded valuables cabinet to
You
my
can
Trazyn
get his
the
Catan
Infinite,
shard.
giving me what I need to keep
Oh,
on going in
cool.
between bouts of existential dread.
$52.
If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching, and take care out
I don't
there.
even remember what Catan he has. It's probably the
Yeah,
Nightbringer.
Catan shard of the Deceiver.
Oh, the Deceiver.
I think
Oh.
Tarkov sucks. No,
Oh.
I haven't played it. I just wanted to get that out there. Let you all know where
Okay.
I stand.
I haven't
on the
played it
matter of
either.
Games I barely know anything about. A friend of mine did put a mod in Project Zomboid that replaced the inventory system with Tarkov's, and it was utter garbage, so I know a little bit about it. I know its inventory management is utter garbage, but I play Paradox games, so I'm probably not the authority on it if a game is good or not.
I mean, I'm also just going by what's immediately listed as related products.
Ah. So, yeah, the Deceiver is... He's not one of the strongest Catan. I would bring that more over to the Nightbringer and probably the Void Dragon. By the way,
That one's also available.
Yeah. But anyway.
$127.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. So, I'll just say to
Me
this.
neither. God, no.
Thank you all so much for coming by. If you like our stuff. Yep.
Assholes had the audacity to give him an alternate head, too.
Also, thank you all so much for coming by. If you like what we're doing here, like, comment, subscribe. And we'll gladly watch more of this kind of stuff. I just like Trazyn for funny reasons.
He's a meme lord.
He's one of the funniest characters in 40k, and that's saying something.
Yeah. He's here for your wallet and the contents of your fridge because he just has an inkling that ham is historically significant.
Well, anyway. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Be